All right, welcome to the February meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The members of the zoning board that will be voting on tonight's issues is member Stephen Lianis, our alternate member Orlando Spinola, Fire Chief Brian Nardelli, member James Sweeney, and myself, Chair Kenneth Galligan. Our zoning enforcement officer, building superintendent, and clerk to the zoning board is Mr. James Pluff. Our recording secretary for tonight's meeting is Monica Fragazzo. Before we start the meeting, I would ask that you silence or shut off any phones or any electronic devices that may interfere with the meeting. The way the meeting will be run tonight is I will call the case, and the petitioner who represents that case will present the petition to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Once the petitioner has finished the presentation, I will then ask the board members if they have any questions on the testimony that was just given by the petitioner. When that has been concluded, I will then open it up for public discussion, and I will ask if there is anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of the petition. When that has been concluded, I will ask if there is anyone here that wants to speak in opposition to the petition. When that has been concluded, I will then ask if there are any elected officials that are on with us tonight that maybe want to be heard on the issue. When that is finished, I will then close the public hearing portion of the meeting. I will then open it up for deliberation by the board members. And at this point of the meeting, this is strictly deliberations between the board members. The public discussion has been closed. At some point after the deliberations have been completed, a board member will ask for a motion to grant, and another board member will second that. At that point, I will call for a roll call vote. The secretary will call the vote, and he will tell me what the vote is. I will then announce the decision of the board, and I will announce to the petitioner whether the petition has been granted or it is denied. In order for a petition to be granted on a 5-person board, if all 5 members of the board vote in the affirmative, the petition will be granted. If 4 members of the board vote in favor and 1 in the negative, the petition will be granted. If it's a 3-2 or anything less than a 3-2 vote, the petition is denied. So that is what is required in order for a petition to be granted. Tonight, we have several cases that have been withdrawn, and I am going to announce those cases that have been withdrawn, and they will not be heard tonight. They will be re-advertised for a future meeting. The first case that was scheduled for this evening is case number 2209. The petition of Dolfat and Berlin Jean, 30 Kennedy Circle, Southeastern Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 2710, Table 2, and Article 4, Section 2729 to be allowed 4 residential apartments on the second floor in a commercial C2 zone, where the petitioner also seeks to convert an existing building into a 100-seat restaurant that lacks green space, required parking spaces for the same, but has legal contract in writing to have additional shared parking with an abutting church in a C2 zone, and that is located at 1159 Main Street. That case will not be heard tonight. The second case that has been withdrawn is petition number 2211. The petition of Sign Here Investments LLC, care of Philip Nazarella Esquire, 1063 North Main Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from Section 2721, Table 279, to construct a duplex on Lot A, to construct a single-family home on Lot C, and the existing 3-family on Lot B. These are all located in an R1C zone at 432 Crescent Street. That case has been also withdrawn and will not be heard tonight. So we have remaining tonight 3 cases to be heard and 1 request for an extension. Prior to the start of the meeting, if there is anyone tonight that wants to withdraw without prejudice prior to the start of the meeting, this would be the time to speak up. Is there anyone here tonight for any of the cases that are scheduled that want to withdraw prior to the start of the hearing?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we will go forward. All right, the first request for an extension. This is from Attorney James Burke, representing Darren DeCoste, as he is the manager of 127 Center Corner LLC. The applicant, which was in the case number 2127. The applicant secured a variance that is attached to this communication, which became final on or about April 21st, 2021. It is less than 1 year since the variance became final. The applicant respectfully requests that the zoning board grant an extension of this variance for a period of not less than 6 months from April 21st, 2022 to enable the applicant to proceed with a definitive subdivision before the planning board of the city of Brockton. And they're requesting that we act on this tonight. This references a variance that was granted by this board, and the case was heard on Tuesday, March 9th of 2021. And the location of this was 127 Center Street, where they want to put in a combination apartments and commercial space on the first floor. That was approved, and now he's coming up on the 1 year, so he's asking for a 6-month extension. So I would open that up for discussion among the board. What's your feelings?
I don't see a problem with it. Make a motion to grant if there's no other discussion.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to grant a 6-month extension, and that extension will begin on April 21st of 2022. The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lanus,
Yes.
Mr. Spinola,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Okay, the vote is 5 in the affirmative. The 6-month request for an extension has been granted. All right, case number 2207, the petition of Alexander Burrow, 227 Linwood Street, Brockton, Mass. Article 3, Section 27-20, to construct a detached garage which exceeds the allowed size in an R1C zone located at 227 Linwood Street. Petitioner here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please identify yourself.
Alexander Burrow, 227 Linwood Street, Brockton, Massachusetts.
Okay, can you explain to the board what you're requesting? This is a request for a variance.
Yes, sir. I'm requesting a variance for a 2-story, 1-car garage for my residence. I was told the building was too large for regular, since the first floor of my residence is the garage exceeds the 30% limit, I believe. So I'm requesting permission to continue with or starting this build for my detached garage.
Do you know what the square footage is of your current home?
I believe it's 2,200 square feet, sir.
Your current house is 2,200 square feet?
Yes.
Okay, and what is the square footage of the building that you want to build?
1,400 square feet.
Do you know the outside dimensions of your current house?
I do not, sir, not off the top of my head.
Okay, very good. You're requesting a variance from this section of section 27. Do you need to describe to the board what your hardship is? What is so unique about this that makes you different than anybody else relative to building a garage?
I actually don't know how to answer that, sir.
Okay, so when you have a variance request, you have to have something that's unique about the soil conditions, the topography, the shape of the lot. Obviously, one of the problems that you have is you want to build a garage that is too big based upon the size of the current house, and that's why you're before us. But is there any reason why this building couldn't be built to conform to section 27, which would be 30% of the size of the house? Let me ask that question.
Well, I'm a family of 6. We're running out of space in the house, so the extra space would be used for storage. I have four children right now. We really need the space.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Will this garage be used for a living area?
No.
Mr. Burrell, just real quick, I noticed something about a wood shop in here. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Looking at the plans? Okay. Just so you know, moving forward, for some of us whose eyesight might not be as spectacular, these are very difficult to read, even with a strong magnifying glass. So just any projects in the future, you might want to have something with a little bit better lettering. They're very difficult to see, quite honestly. So I appreciate the chair's asking about the dimensions, because I quite honestly couldn't see them. But a wood shop, I see that there's a bathroom, storage, and a garage. That's a one vehicle garage, it looks like?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And upstairs, bonus room, what's the plan for that?
Just a play area for the kids.
Okay, I guess the reason I bring it up is to kind of get to Mr. Lannis's point of, we have to make sure we're not building a second home here on the property, is the concern, because it is quite large. And the concern for, a lot of this space and bonus rooms and stuff like that, I just want to make sure that it'll be used for the purposes that are being stated.
Correct.
Yeah, and to Chief Nardelli's point, usually we're accustomed to getting plans like this. Yours, like on this sheet here, you have like 4 on here, which each one is about the size of a business card. So you have something about the size of this that should be on a plan that we could actually read.
Okay.
Any other questions from board members? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official who wants to be heard on the issue?
None are present, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to conclude the public portion of the hearing. I'm now going to open it up for discussion among the board members. Board members.
I don't really see a hardship here. I'm not too clear on the hardship.
I can certainly relate to the, the need for space. However, to the point that has been brought up, this is almost identical to, it has the average square footage of any single family home in Brockton with a bedroom. Essentially, if you change the names on the rooms, it's a single family house. I think a plan that was maybe downscaled, to give the homeowner and the petitioner some relief may work, but this plan seems to be scaled to almost a full-size single family.
I don't disagree, and if you look at the definition under section 27 of a garage, it is a garage to house a motor vehicle. I think this is much larger than a traditional garage as to allow for the storage of a motor vehicle. I too am very disappointed in the size of the plans. I had very strong difficulty in reading dimensions. There was no dimensions given of the house. That's why I asked the question about how many square feet the house actually was.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, was, and this is just the way the house is set, but trying to actually do a site visit to this was very difficult because of the driveway and things of that nature. It became a little dicey trying to really get an eyeball on this piece of property with the way this is going to be laid out.
Did the board members view this site from Linwood Street?
I did today.
Yes.
Earlier today. The property is set back uniquely on that street.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, my issue with this is down the road when this house is for sale, what's preventing somebody from converting that into another home?
An issue.
I don't think we're against having another garage for its purposes, but for me this is a single family home for all intents and purposes.
Well, I agree. I don't believe a hardship is shown here on this. So I'd entertain a motion if somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll make
Motion to
a,
grant.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lamus,
No,
Mr. Spinola,
No.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Chief Nardelli,
No.
Chair Gallagher.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
All right, the vote is 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied. All right, the next petition, 2208, the petition of Jose Cardozo, 9 Skinner Street, Brockton, Mass., to construct a fire escape lacking setbacks in an R2 zone located at 9 Skinner Street. Is the petitioner ready?
Yes,
Okay, please identify yourself.
Jose Cardozo, 9 Skinner Street.
Okay, the floor is yours. You can explain to the zoning board members what you'd like to do.
I need a measureless fire escape
Why do you need a fire escape?
Yeah, because I need to make one door on a kitchen, on a back kitchen. Put a fire escape for emergency.
So what are you looking for from the zoning board?
I need a one foot.
Okay, you need relief from side yard setback and rear yard setback, correct?
On the back, yes.
This house that you own this house, I assume.
Yeah, I
You are the
own.
owner of the house. Is this house currently a two-family house?
Yes.
Can you explain to the board why there is a fire escape ladder mounted on the north side of the house?
Because when I buy a house, it was on the side. But I need to make the other new fire escape. Nice one, and the door on the side, on the back side.
Or why is it that you're before the board now doing this? Why wasn't this done earlier? Is there an answer for that one?
Yeah, because what are you gonna say? Yeah.
Hi, I'm his daughter, Alessandra Cardozo. Do you mind if I translate?
No, go right ahead.
Ok, para mal que fazer belante, que fazer gas.
Yeah, para emergência, antes eu tinha duas portas
Porta na onde?
na frente. Eu tinha duas portas paralelas, mas eu queria fazer mais um para trás.
Okay, he never thought about it before because it has the two front entrance, but now he's thinking of doing a fire escape towards the back.
So how many ways are there currently to get into the second floor?
Canto entrar aqui tem para entrar no segundo andar.
Esse café tem duas doors, mas para entrar de fora
Okay, to
Okay.
get in to the second floor, there's two entrances, but for the second floor to go outside, there's no emergency exit. So you can get into the second floor, say if you were on the first floor.
Yeah,
But if there's an emergency on the first floor, there's no exit for the second floor person.
so when I went there and looked at the front of the house, there was two mailboxes on the front and there's two gas meters on the house. And the
Yeah.
city has assessed this building as a two-family. So apparently this house has been a two-family for quite some time. How long have you owned the house?
Que tempo?
12 years.
How
12
many?
years.
12 years.
12 years. Okay, so when you bought the house, this fire escape ladder was already mounted on the side of the building?
Yeah, you got a one, but there's a old one. I like to take it in one.
Não, é para esse canto que comprou aqueles caras estava lá.
Yes.
Yes, the stairs was there when he bought the house.
Okay, so to get to the second floor, you could go in the front door off the Skinner Street and go up a set of stairs to the second floor?
On the front.
Not from the side, not from that side escape ladder, no.
No, I'm talking if you went in the front door, if you came up the front stairs, could you go in the front door and go up to the second floor?
Yes.
Okay, where is the second exit out of the second floor? Where does that take you to?
Que outro porta para onde que te levou?
E tem onde vai para a sala, que eu tenho quarto, na second floor. You
Na
got
driveway, aquele porta de driveway?
Qual?
Aquele porta de driveway estava de riba ou estava
Não.
de primeiro floor? Então, aqui tem duas portas.
Como era uma família que morava lá.
Não, mas você falou, aqui segundo floor pode descer de baixo para trás, nesse momento.
Nesse momento que eu poder, tem aquela emergência lá, que tem.
Oh,
Por isso
então,
alguém que pode.
aquele que perguntou
Yeah.
aquela hora, só então, para de riba, só para frente que tem.
Yeah.
Okay, so he said there's no exit from the back to the second floor. So technically, there's only one entrance to the second floor from the front entrance, from the main Skinner Street.
Okay, so that fire escape ladder became the second exit.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what you want to do is add a legal second means of egress from the back of the house, which is going to lead, you said, from the kitchen to the back.
Yes.
And in order to do that, you're asking for relief from side yard setback. I understand that. I just want to make very clear that there is no intention on the part of the petitioner here to increase the size of this house to make it a 3-family house rather than a 2-family house. That is not the intention here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Dessa flow, uma boca,
Nunca
uma
posso.
só para
Não,
fazer
não.
greve.
Não,
Só
não,
para
é só
fazer
para
exit.
kitchen. É o exit
Yes,
only.
just for emergency exit from the kitchen to the outside.
É kitchen,
Okay,
the
so-
second floor.
The interior layout of the second floor remains the same. And if this petition is granted for this additional exit in the rear, which you're calling a fire escape, if
Yes.
that is granted by this board, then the understanding is that that fire escape ladder that goes down the side of the building on the north side of the house, that'll be removed. Is that correct?
If he's gonna remove the ladder,
Yes.
essa flama que faz aqueles caras atrás,
Calma. Não,
aqueles caras que você faz.
não, que até toilet, que é fire escape, emergência.
No, his intention is to leave, to make that door and leave the stairs to the backyard of the house.
Correct. All I'm concerned about is that fire escape ladder, which now is not a legal means of egress out of the second floor. So if we're going to grant you the opportunity to put a legal second means of egress out the back of that house, there should be no need for that ladder down the side of the house. That's what I'm
Yes,
asking.
para aquele lado.
Não, que lá está toilet.
Yes, he's gonna remove the one from the side.
Okay, so what we understand is if this is granted, he will add the fire escape ladder to the rear, the stairway, which now gives him a legal second means of egress, and he's going to remove the ladder that's currently on the north side of the building.
Tu entende? É
Yeah.
para vocês dão que ele permite que você fazer aquele que crê para trás ou tem que trocar aquele lado.
Não, não, tinha que estar lá.
Okay, he's already aware he has to remove the one from the side.
Nunca mais tem mais.
Yes, vamos tem que entrar logo.
Okay, so just one other question, and that is, you're asking for a variance, you're asking for relief from setback. It's only about a foot that you are asking for. Normally, we would ask for a hardship, which you just heard in the last case. Obviously, where the building has been there for all of these years, there's nothing really you can do to alleviate that condition. You can't move the house, obviously. And there's a right of way that's involved with this house to the rear. So can you just explain to the board what your hardship is based upon kind of what you just heard?
Entende?
Não.
Vou levar alguém lá que fazer o desenho de hardship de casa.
Yes, engenheiro, vai.
So there's no other place you can put this ladder. It has to go where
Essa
you're
fica dentro.
proposing to put it.
He said he brought an engineer there to kind of give him an idea where about they can do it because of the size of the house. The house also has an easement towards like his driveway. So that kind of cuts limited of him doing an addition emergency exit to where the driveway is.
Yes.
So he has a picture. The engineer pretty much said the only space he has is towards the back.
Okay, I'll accept that. Very good, thank you. Board members, any questions from any board members?
Just real quick, my question, if you've owned it for 12 years, I don't know if what's the reason for doing it now? Were you told that you had to find a second means? Were you looking to do other work? I guess I'm just trying to get an idea of what's the reasoning behind doing it 12 years after you purchased the property?
If eu moro lá por 12 anos, nunca penso nele, como eu penso agora.
Como antes ela não estava chamando que pensar nunca como onde estava, era sua família que ainda morava lá.
Okay.
Não era sua família.
All right. He said he never thought about it because he used to live at the home. He's now renting the house, and that came across the tenant asking in terms of an emergency. So that's the only reason why he's thinking about it
Era
now.
sua família.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, that's good. That's as the fire chief, that's good.
Right.
Foi um negócio que muda, por isso
Yeah.
você está.
Any other board members? Everybody good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
There's no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public portion of the hearing. I'm now going to open it up for deliberation among the board members. Board members.
I think it's an upgrade in the safety of the building, with only relief of a foot, and that being the tenant's safety, in means out of the building. The chief can speak on it more, but I see it as a benefit to this structure.
Yeah, I agree. And if we add in the stipulations about not extending the footprint of the property and removing the ladder from the north side of the house, I'm okay with granting it.
I think that stipulation should go in there that we take that ladder off because it's really not a safe situation and the stairway can solve that problem. And right now, the house is assessed as a two-family. It has 2 gas meters. It has 2 mailboxes in the front. I would like just to put a stipulation on here that this house shall not be more than what it currently is, and that's a 2-family house.
I would agree. I think one of the things we run into throughout the city is the way the city was designed and laid out many years ago. When people buy properties and they, like Mr. Cardozo was here trying to make it safe, I think to do that, he is talking about a hardship, because what his hardship is the fact that he can't put it anywhere else. He can't restrict the means of the easement for the folks in the home behind him. And I think putting this where it is really his really only option from what I saw when I went there. So, and increasing the safety of those people on the second floor, I think is obviously going down a set of stairs versus trying to get out over that ladder is very justifiable.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded with the stipulations that the steel ladder will be removed and the house shall not be any larger than it currently is, which is a 2-family house. Those are the stipulations. We good with those?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And did the board members take a look at this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Lanus,
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Spinola,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nardelli,
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
All right, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next petition is 2210, the petition of Robert Kane, 155 Rock Island Road, Quincy, Mass, for a variance to construct a 3 attached condominium unit in an R1C zone located at 134 Armiston Street. Is the petitioner ready?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Sean Hardy. I'm engineer for the applicant. Also on the call is Steve Miller. I believe he is with the rest of the applicants.
So
So
what is your name again, sir?
Sean Hardy, SHAWNHARDY.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is 134 Armiston Street. It's proposed, should I do a screen share? Is that worthwhile for you guys or?
Yeah, Jim, can you square that away? Mr. Secretary, you there?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, what was the question?
He wants to do a screen share.
Oh, 1 second, please. All set.
Thank you. So, in hearing, I guess, so this has a little bit of history with it. This is 134 Armiston Street. It's about a 3¼ acre parcel of land at the end of Armiston Street, and Parkview Lane is adjacent to it. So the existing site has a sewer easement running through it, a 150-foot wide electrical easement running through it. There are wetlands to the plan north and additional wetlands down plan east. In addition to that, there is at the roadway, it's approximate elevation 189, and at the rear of the lot, it's about elevation 159. There's a 30-foot grade change as well. In watching some of the earlier hearings, the question about hardships. So we feel as though, you know, having the electrical easement, the sewer easement, the wetlands, the 30-foot grade change, there's also ledge present on the site. And at the roadway, despite being 3¼ acres in land area, there's only 46 feet of roadway frontage. So back for a little bit of history, we tried to go before the planning board for a definitive subdivision. And for a waiver, they have a 50-foot wide roadway requirement or a right-of-way requirement. That was denied. They told us that we would need to do the 50. Therefore, we cannot subdivide this property with only the 46 feet of frontage. We came before the zoning board a time ago last year and proposed 3 detached townhouse style units. There was a proposed 24-foot wide driveway and utilities to be served to serve those buildings. We were denied through the zoning board last year. It was voted 3-2 in favor, but therefore a denial. The reasoning was the feeling that the roadway wasn't wide enough. There was question about the availability for fire apparatus and or emergency vehicles to turn around, to have an area for snow storage. Some of the neighbors also were concerned about what this would mean as far as drainage goes for this parcel. So what you have now, then we went back. So this plan here now for 3 proposed attached units went before the planning board to ask permission or seek permission to return to your board here. So we are here tonight to present this. What we have is, as I said, the proposal is for 3 attached townhouse units with a total of 4 parking spaces per unit. There's a 2-car garage in the front of each unit, as well as across this driveway, 2 additional parking spaces per unit. We're proposing a 30-foot wide driveway with an area here that would allow for the turning of a fire apparatus in this hammerhead. We're proposing an area here to be reserved for snow storage. This area where the turnaround for the fire apparatus could be is proposed to be marked as no parking. In order to collect the drainage, we're showing on this plan to propose a series of catch basins to an area to be collected and with a discharge down here at the lower end of the site. We, because of the number of iterations project, we haven't fully designed the drainage yet, but we make note on this plan. Therefore, it would be part of the record that the outfall and discharge to be designed upon ZBA approval of the 3 units. So that would be the next step. And we also acknowledge that we would likely have to go before conservation in order to do this, given the wetlands on the site. And that's where that drainage design would be more formalized. I note also that I know in some of the previous hearings, like I said, there was concerns from the neighbors as far as drainage and were we acknowledging and collecting and treating, and I believe that we are hereby saying that. There was also a question or concern about the condition of Armiston Street itself leading to the site. To that, we spoke with the DPW, Mr. Hill, who brought up or showed that they maintain the pavement management system, and the Armiston Street was classified or given a rating of 75 out of 100. Mr. Hill said that would be considered in good condition and indicated that construction vehicles and the future use of these residences wouldn't further deteriorate Armiston Street. So I believe that's it as far as my presentation. I'm not sure if one of the other applicants want to speak or not, but that as far as the engineering goes, this is what we're presenting.
Did you have any other people that are going to speak on this issue?
Does look like he's ready. No, Stephen Miller is on the call, but it doesn't look like he's going to be speaking right now.
Okay, can you be more specific on what you're looking as the hardship on this location?
Well, I feel as though there's 150-foot wide electrical easement. There's a sewer easement that crosses the property. There's 3 areas of flagged wetlands on the property. Is from Armiston Street to the rear, there's a 30-foot elevation change on, as well as there's ledge that's present. So, you know, between the wetlands and the ledge, the soil, topography, the 30-foot grade change, those easements as well. And then, you know, I as far as shape goes, it's a 3.25 acre lot in the area with 46 feet of frontage. So it certainly has that as far as what we would argue shape. So those with the soil shape topography, I think those are it.
Very good, thank you.
Sir, could you, it's hard for me on the plan because it's shaded. What is the width between those parking spaces and the building? The separate, for unit 2, the 2 spots for unit 1, the 2 spots for unit 2, the 2 spots for unit 3. What is the width between where the back of the car on that line would be in the building? Because maybe I'm just not seeing it right on this plan, but I can't really tell.
Yeah, so the drive aisle, which would be behind those parking spaces, is 24, and then there's another approximately 6 to 8 feet that where you see that little landscape bump out there. That's so it's almost 30 feet to back out.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, so he's asking for a variance in this area, and it's specifically because it's a attached condominium. I'm just reading the original ask, if that can just be clarified.
Now, it's zoned for single family residential, an R1C zone.
Okay, and this is, he's wanting attached condominiums, which will be multifamily, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Was there thought just to putting where that house burned down, and is that part of the property? I'm just trying to get my bearings, and when I went to the site, it was the same thing. It looks like this is set further back from where that property is, that where they had the house that burned. Is that correct?
It is. So we were aware of the fact that now that house was built previously, and granted there's a shell of it that remains, but that's also an area that had, if you're looking from the street at that house, to the left of it is a flagged wetland area. So we were trying to maximize the distance out of the buffer zone. Aware that wetlands regulations have changed since that house was built and approved previously. So that's why we are a little bit further down the hill.
And I was not on the board the last time this vote took place, but I understand you wanted 3 separate condominiums last time, if I read that correctly.
Correct. We proposed, almost like 3 separate houses. And at the time, the argument was, again, but for 46 feet of lot frontage, this, we could probably have a 5 subdivision on this property. If for 4 more feet of lot frontage, this could hold up to 5 subdivision lots, meeting the rules and regulations of both zoning and planning. So
Okay,
that's the reasoning.
understood.
Jim, on planning, wasn't there an issue about the radius from Armiston Street into this proposed area? Wasn't that an issue last time also? It's a square.
Yeah,
footage.
yes, that had come up in planning. Yes.
So if I understand correctly, and Mr. Sweeney, you might be able to talk to this, because I have concerns about the turning radius off of Armiston onto this driveway space. It is very, I don't want to say tight, but the way the angles are made and the way our apparatus is designed, would not be easy for us to turn around that. Is that what you're getting at? Because I noticed that same thing.
Right. That was the major concern. It's the width of that and how long it is in the fire department.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, that was the first look I had. That's why.
And from what he said in the presentation, do you feel like those things were addressed from prior to what it is now, or is it still?
You're asking me?
No, I'm Brian.
Okay.
Or if you know too, Jim. That's
No,
great.
I'd rather him respond to you.
I don't know, because I didn't see, like, it's hard for me to understand from the previous plan. I don't think this looks adequate. From what I see to get a piece of fire apparatus. Now, there's another whole avenue of the distance, and you might be able to tell me, what is the distance from Armiston into this property? The way the shades work on this, maybe it's my eyes, I have a difficult time understanding. What is the distance roadway wise between Armiston to that set of condominiums?
It's approximately 200 feet.
Okay. Was there a plan on putting a hydrant down there?
We would be open to that if that was requested. I mean, so again, when this was a subdivision or proposed as a subdivision, we certainly were thinking that it was definitely going to be a requirement because there was going to be a more substantial water main. We were looking at this as, that it was more of a smaller service. I don't know, does 3 units require fire suppression in the building perhaps?
Yeah, well, that was a little down the road, but my concern is 200 feet, hydrant at the end of it, a dead end hydrant main is not good unless this goes through to another street, because we don't like dead end mains simply because they don't. And this is to the whole planning aspect, Mr. Sweeney, and I don't want to get in too deep in that realm, but a dead end hydrant at the end of this, now everything collects at the dead end hydrant. We like hydrants that flow through. And then the whole suppression system on top of this, if that would be required by planning or through fire prevention. But okay, my main question was the turning at the top as well. I mean, the ability for fire apparatus to get in. I apologize.
Yes. I mean, the previous plan, we had a 24-foot wide, and now we're showing a 30-foot wide driveway, that full length. And then with that hammerhead there, so the 30-foot wide with the ability to turn into that 24-foot wide if need be. That was what we had heard as the argument the last time. So, and we note that, the 30-foot wide driveway now, I believe, is wider than the pavement that is actually on Armiston Street.
Yeah, I'm speaking more towards the angle of getting into that off of Armiston.
Okay.
The way the best way to explain it, the way the curb is set up coming in is tight. There's not a real nice berm on it for a fire apparatus to get around, without taking out everything on the sidewalk or anything to that effect. So, but those are obviously the concerns I come up with.
Can I ask, do I have the ability to ask a question, Mr. Chairman, or is that?
What is it?
It's the engineer. I have a question. I mean, if we were to get relief for the 3 units, we do have the 46 feet of frontage down there. I certainly, if time came to be, if conditions of approval or something, I certainly think with the 46-foot wide of roadway frontage and the angle that we have, that we could probably come up with something that would satisfy the chief.
So I think what I'm getting at, that abrupt angle, but the way Armiston comes into it is kind of where it's a strange angle to get in. That's just the way the road's laid out. There's nothing I can do about that.
Okay.
But I'm trying to, I guess what I'm getting at is here, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I've looked at it. It's hard to see it because nothing's really set up yet. When you go up there to get an idea on that, looking at the plans, I'm trying to see that. Taking a left and a quick right in those angles, I'm not sure that there's a property line right on the corner of where you put that, so you can't really round that out. I don't know. It's just trying to get my head around it. I'm just trying to think at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. getting a piece of fire apparatus down that road.
It seems I've surrendered my ability to share again, so I don't know if I could get that back and maybe just try and blow it up on the screen if possible. I don't know.
Can you put that back, Jim?
Yep, he can do it now.
Thank you. All right, so to come in, to come down, and I see what you're saying. We tended to hug it. We have this is our lot line here, but our 30-foot wide, we have the ability to push out an additional, from that 30 feet, we have an additional 16 feet, and we have this other area that we could certainly soften that angle and come through or widen that out as needed. Like I said, currently the 30-foot wide, we show it as the 30 because that's what we heard, I think, at the previous meeting, and I understand that you're looking at it with a different set of eyes, and we're happy to oblige, certainly. I think with the extra 16 feet of frontage here and potentially the ability to soften that angle, I think there's some room there to do if we were granted to go with the 3 units. And like I said, whether there would be a condition that says we satisfy the fire department or show turning radiuses, I think there's ample room there to accomplish that.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to.
How wide could you make that? Like, what's the biggest radius you can make on that plot right there for that?
Well, I mean, so we show a radius. I suppose in theory, we wouldn't have to have a radius. We could make it the full 46-foot wide, and we could mimic the same angle as this lot line. So it wouldn't have to be take our turn in that. It would be more come down and just kind of follow that general. We could definitely soften that.
Chief, does that make a difference?
Yeah, it does. It's the way the Lopes property is on the edge. It just kind of, it's almost like, because of that, where that property line is, they have to swing out to swing in. And that's where I see the concerns. And I think, I don't know, seeing it on the plan doesn't really, and I understand what the gentleman's saying about widening that. I completely understand that. It's just that, I don't know. It's hard for me to envision a fire truck getting around those corners, coming from down the street there. That's all. But I think about parking on the street. This is a residential neighborhood. People are going to park on the sides of the road. And there's nothing that says they can't do that.
Well, we're showing no parking and
No, I'm talking about, listen, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to say listen, but that 30 feet is I understand you've increased that by 6 feet. I completely understand that. It's getting into that property, the way then those angles work around is what I'm concerned about. And I completely understand that, sir. I know you guys have gone a long way to add that from 26 to, I think it was, to 30. And that's commendable. It's prior to that you can't do anything about that is what concerns me.
Understood.
I have another question relative to rubbish removal from this property. How is that going to be accomplished? Are you
Um,
going to have a
we-
dumpster in here?
No, they were, the proposal, so snow removal would be private through the condo association and rubbish removal would be as well. The feeling was that it was going to be individual totes for the units and that they would come and collect them similar to, the city's trash system, but it would be paid for privately and handled privately.
Right, I understand that, but a rubbish truck would come down that driveway into the property to pick up the rubbish and then either have to turn around or back out of there.
Correct. And so this 30-foot wide driveway and extends and additionally, there's no parking area and a pretty wide sweep to come up this 24-foot wide driveway. We feel as though there's plenty of room for vehicles to maneuver around there.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Everybody good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm now going to open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
Yeah, I wanted to speak in favor. This is Jamal Brathwaite. And can everyone hear me, by the way?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I want to express a statement in favor of this variance request to build a 3-unit condo conditional to, one, the existence of a stormwater management system that includes catch basins. The engineer, he did make reference that would take place. So as long as there, it says something in writing upon the variance, and that I'd be okay with it. And secondly, the ability to meet the fire department requirements as described by Chief Brian Nardelli. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak in favor?
I would like to speak in favor.
Please identify yourself.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Lasso. I live at 99 Armiston Street.
Okay.
So I am in favor of having something developed on that property. I definitely appreciate all of the time and effort that you guys have spent on this project. I especially appreciate Chief Nardelli's comments. I'm not sure if you were at the fire at 134 Armiston Street, Chief, but seeing your trucks trying to maneuver and manipulate down around in that area, that was very difficult. With the fire being closer to the street property than these folks are proposing. So that aspect does, create some concern for me. And then also, I appreciate, Mr. Galligan, how you brought up the trash issue. If it's not picked up on a weekly basis, that could contribute to having, rodent infestation problems. So I'd like to make sure that something like that is addressed. Also, when we were looking at the plan that was brought up on the screen a few minutes ago, I noticed that the Jackson's driveway, who is the abutting property directly next door, their driveway is not on this map. So, widening the road and looking at the property from that plan, it just didn't look like it's ready. So, my concerns are of that, but also the structural integrity of Armiston Street. Now, I heard somebody mention that Pat Hill said that the street had a 75%, value of, worthiness. However, when I spoke with Pat myself, and I had sent that original email that all you guys got from me regarding the structural integrity test being performed at the expense of the developer, where the developer agreed, and also you guys agreed that they should be doing that. Pat Hill did not know what a structural integrity test was. So I do not trust his ability to actually say that the street is structurally integrable to have construction vehicles on it. This street was recently repaved within the last 10 years. And if you drive up and down my street today, it's a wreck. It's all cracked. We originally had to have the sewer replaced so that the city wouldn't lose its state highway funding for having the rainwater infiltrate the sewer line, because there's no rain catch basins on Armiston Street. So I do consider that to be one of the most serious problems that faces this build, is that we are going to get inundated with heavy construction vehicles doing even more damage on this street. We've already had 2 gas line breaks that have had to be repaired, and a water pipe that was needing to be repaired. Actually, right across the street from my house, the gas line was 2 doors down from my house and then a couple doors up from my house. So there's that to contend with as well too. So again, we request that a structural integrity test be performed on this street to prove that it can hold the weight of these vehicles before you start any kind of construction project. Also, no sidewalks on my street. So we've got children, little children, that have already had to deal with the construction vehicles from the Woodland Park project that's still under development today, which those vehicles were supposed to be blocked by a gate at the end of Armiston Street. And that's also in the document that I sent you all, that you should see that that was put in place so that the vehicles would stop using Armiston Street. That gate was up for years, and the only reason that gate was taken down was so that they could pave the end of Parkview Lane that they were supposed to do, and then Brophy and Phillips was supposed to put that gate back up. They didn't do it. The next developer who bought the site, the city did nothing to make sure that they adhered to that site build plan. And so that gate still is not up, and I still have construction vehicles going up and down Armiston Street, risking the lives of the children and also ruining Armiston Street even more. If you were to take a ride, you guys said that you were up and down Armiston Street the other day. Did you see all the cracks? Did you see the deterioration of the street? Not good. And here's the thing, Armiston Street is a private road. So that means if something catastrophic happens to the street, the city's not going to repair it. So it was supposed to be repaved with rainwater catch basins by Brophy and Phillips, who were the original developers of the Woodland Park, but they didn't do it. And the city has not done anything to the second and or third developer to make them adhere to that city site plan. So these are the concerns that we have. And I'm actually, I didn't mention this at the beginning of my rant here, but I am the vice president of the Northeast Brockton Neighborhood Association. And we could have had 25 other neighbors on this call, but instead they chose to entrust their voice to me so that I could express these concerns to all of you. So hopefully that gives some insight into the concerns of the neighbors around here, but also to the developer and to the planner. I think that there needs to be better plans put forward to move forward with something like this to ensure the safety of the neighborhood and to also the developer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor?
I don't see any other hands raised at this moment, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition?
Mr. Chair, I see no hands raised.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
I do not see any, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That closes the public discussion on this project. I will now open it up for discussion among board members.
Mr. Chair, if I may go back to the architect or the engineer, sorry.
All right, I'll allow that.
So there seems to be a little bit of miscommunication between Mr. Hill. I believe you have an email from Mr. Hill in regards to the structural integrity of the street. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that for us, please?
I would have to defer to Mr. Miller. He's the one, or they had the conversation. So he's unmuting now.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So this is actually Rob Kane, but one of the other owners. We don't have an email from Mr. Hill. We had a discussion with him over the phone and got all of those details. I don't know if the previous woman speaking was referring to an email she had. I'm not sure. We had the discussion with Pat with the details.
No,
and, his
no, not to interrupt, but I
Ma'am,
had,
ma'am, I have to shut you off now. That's,
Yeah. So yeah, sorry. Phone call with Mr. Hill with the, facts and his professional opinion as to the integrity of that road. Nothing in writing from him.
Okay, who had the conversation with him?
I did, Rob Kane and Steve Miller.
Okay, like a speakerphone conversation?
Yeah, exactly. So we had a three-way phone call. We, because basically it goes back to these previous meetings, planning board and DBA, where, we heard the neighbors' concerns. So essentially we, did our best to do a due diligence of what is a road integrity test, what does it entail, what does the city, officially give as a record of condition of the road, and is it safe? I mean, we own property on the same street as the two people that have spoke up. We're not looking to do anything detrimental. If we, do anything to hurt that road or any of the neighborhood, that hurts them and us, to be honest. We're owners just as much as anybody else there. So, we did our best to find out exactly what all that is. We're not a large developer that has, taken on these huge projects that have, an overbearing amount of equipment coming in or out, or going to have issues with, we built 5 houses and then we can't finish a development. This is a pretty simple project on one piece of land that, we felt was good enough to get through. But, again, hearing their concerns, we spoke to Mr. Hill. He said, again, kind of the stats that Sean gave you, but, it's rated a 75 out of 100. If the paving was even a 55 out of 100, he would have absolutely no concerns with everyday construction to build exactly what we proposed going up and down that street. We're not adding sidewalks. We're not killing children with our equipment coming in and out of there. It's going to be a everyday project. He said the road's been done over in the early 2000s. The sewer's been redone. The water main's been redone. It's all new PVC underneath. And yes, he wasn't sure exactly how you integrity test an entire street to say what can happen on there. And from all of everything that they've done, making that road new recently, and everything that he has on record about it is what he gave us, and that's what we're going by.
It seems like, I'm not an expert on streets, obviously, but it seems like you'd have to stress test it. You'd have to also, maybe the time versus the materials and rate it basically on that. But tell me if I'm wrong. I am not the expert in that field. Did they gave you no indication of that?
No, zero. He said he would have absolutely no problem. And he said to use his name and use our conversation in this meeting if there were questions and anybody wanted detail. He's the DPW commissioner. We do not know roads or, anything that you just said about stress test. To be honest, that's not what we do or know at all. So we reached out to the city's, expert professional as best we could of, who we should talk to. Rob May and the planning board suggested that was the best person to talk to about something like that. And that would, cover you getting as much information as possible and knowing about the street before we do anything, which we completely agree with. Again, why would we do something that would hurt that street? It just doesn't make sense. We're not looking to do that at all.
If I can maybe follow a bit more as the engineer.
I'm going to bring this meeting back to deliberation among the board. Thank you. Board members.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I just think, obviously that whole area up there. And I know just from driving up there and when they were doing the other project is really a gem in how it seems like it's a pretty tight knit neighborhood. I guess I just have obviously some concerns about maneuvering apparatus and things of that nature up in that area. It just concerns me how it would lay out. And it's like, again, looking at it on the map doesn't really do it justice to us coming down that road and going around. So those are some of the concerns I have. I would agree that, obviously it's a beautiful piece of property there, and to be developed would be obviously very advantageous, not only to the city, but to the neighborhood. I think, obviously the right project and again, public safety concern wise on my side is just some concerns I have with that, but I'm sure something could be done there. I just don't know right now if I'm comfortable with the movement of fire apparatus through those through those neighborhoods to get to the end of that, to then have to take some strange turns to get in there. That's all I really have to say about that, Mr. Chairman.
I guess just, putting everything from the planning board, again, it came from the planning board. They did find that it was worthy of coming before us again. But, do value, obviously, what the chief has to say.
So Chief, you're not too confident with the fire apparatuses turning up there?
I think it's very tight, even going through that neighborhood. I grew up in a similar neighborhood, and I know fire apparatus moving around that neighborhood, and they were wide streets, wider than the ones up in that area. I think, then to come to some sharp angles down the end, and I can appreciate what the engineers are saying in regards to widening and this, that, the other thing, but I think the way it comes in, it could be difficult. Again, it's not easy to envision when you're up there, trying to hold the map out there and look at it at the same time. I think I got a good feel. But those are just some of the concerns I have. Again, the whole water situation, it is very remote. Obviously, to one of the residents that spoke on it, I was not there the night of that fire, but it is remote, and that fire burned quite a while without anyone even seeing it. And again, remoteness is nice in a city like Brockton. If you have those little pockets, that's great, and it's great for the neighborhood. And I can truly appreciate that. But we're going to put 3 units with multiple vehicles off to the back in a little bit of a wooded area. Not that that's a zoning concern, but it is a public safety concern for me. I do appreciate all the work, though, that was done in that area to get turnarounds on, and the snow area and stuff. Putting the fire apparatus, I always envision us working in the worst possible scenario around buildings, and getting a piece of fire apparatus down, then around that corner right in front of the property, to then putting outriggers out and different things of that nature. My opinion is, this is a single family residential neighborhood. Why can't it remain that way? That's especially in such a nice piece of land out there, so and again, that's an opinion-based thing, not necessarily for zoning, but I see, the way that neighborhood sets up, it's much more single family residential, families raising families and such, but the apparatus, I do have the biggest concern about.
I think I want to make note that the 2 residents that spoke up did speak in favor. So they obviously seem to be versed on what's going on here. This is an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen. So,
well, I think what we heard from the neighbor who represented the neighborhood was, she started out by saying she would like to see something developed in there, which I think does make sense. But then there was a whole iteration of problems that potentially would go with this, and she was very specific on the kids playing in the street, no sidewalks, the condition of the street, the gate. I mean, I don't know if really she was in favor or against, or was she just explaining some of the problems that would be associated with this? And
I think, sorry, Mr. Chair.
I just think that one of the things we got to consider, what the fire chief is saying is true. That's a consideration that he has relative to fire safety, the movement of apparatus and everything up there. I think the other consideration that we have to make as a board is this an appropriate use of that piece of property in a single family residential neighborhood? Is it appropriate to put this type of residence in that neighborhood? And I think that's one of the things that you're going to have to consider when you make your vote. Is this an appropriate use of that piece of property?
Mr. Chair, if we do vote, are we voting with any stipulations on or no stipulations?
Well, we haven't even talked about stipulations, so.
Both residents who did speak in favor mentioned stipulations. So I think if we are going to vote, we should definitely add stipulations on to, I think that will impact at least my vote.
Well, I think we need to be somewhat careful because we cannot compel other agencies to act. I think a lot of the things that we heard tonight are going to be, if this was approved by us, to allow it to go in there. Then they're gonna have to go before planning and site plan review. And a lot of the things that were addressed or brought up would have to be addressed in that setting, not us. In other words, we can't tell them how they're gonna do their drainage system. We can't put stipulations that require other agencies to act on our behalf. I think what we're basically looking at here tonight is a plan that has been shown to us as a board, and the petitioner is trying to convince the board that this is an appropriate use for that piece of property. That the minutia that's going to go with it really is going to fall into several other boards, Conservation Commission, the Planning Board. The way I'm looking at it basically is this an appropriate use for this piece of property? And based upon what we've heard tonight relative to accessibility to the property, some fire safety issues that we heard from the property, those are going to help me make my decision. But basically my decision is going to be, is this an appropriate building or use of this piece of property in a single family residential neighborhood? So we can put stipulations, but I just want to caution you that you may be thinking of stipulations that really the zoning board needs to be careful about, because it's not our responsibility to really enforce some of the stipulations that you may be looking at. So I'll just leave it at that.
I think if this gets back to a site plan review, we can address some of the issues the chief had brought up as far as, how, maximizing the width of the street to get apparatus in there to be reviewed by Chief Williams. And I think no matter what you put in there, when one of the neighbors had mentioned, you're going to get traffic, obviously construction traffic, whether it's this project or something else. Those issues don't go away. So, just something I thought I would add.
One of the issues that's kind of popped up in several of these is the condition of Armiston Street and a request to determine the suitability of that street to support the weight of heavy construction vehicles. And as a board member, I have no way of determining that. I have driven on that street. It looks like a very substantial street. It looks as though it has been rebuilt in recent years. And I have to rely on the expertise of the DPW commissioner in his comments that the street is a relatively new street, and it appears to be a substantial street. It has been rebuilt when they put the new sewer line in there, when they put the water line in. I know we dealt with a number of streets where developers just paved over loom and stumps and everything else, but based upon what we heard from the DPW commissioner, it appears as though it's a substantial street. And beyond that, I don't know any more about it than you do, other than when you drive on the street, it looks like it's been there for a while. It looks like a pretty substantial street. And I don't see how we can put a stipulation on there that they have to do some kind of a test on the street, when I have no idea what the test might be or who would do it.
I think if we were worried about that, I think a snow plow, some of the big ones are probably just about as big as a construction truck. And I'm not sure if there's any concerns with that at all, just, coincidental.
Well, if there's no further discussion, I think.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Knew you were going with that, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion made and seconded to grant as has been presented here this evening. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Salinas,
No.
Mr. Spinola,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nadelli,
No.
Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 2 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative.
All right, the vote is 2 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. The petition as presented is denied. All right, that should conclude tonight's meeting. Um, I don't think I have anything else to add, and we're going to try to make a determination on what we're going to do next month for the month of March. I'll be honest with you, I would like very much to get back to the city council chambers if we can. So stay tuned, and we'll make a determination whether we're going to be back there in March or we're going to be virtual. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.